The stars looked peaceful from the windows of the starship Unity. Ambassador Jacob Thorne stood alone, his hands resting against the cool glass. He had seen stars from Earth before, but from here in open space they felt bigger, brighter, and somehow more silent. Jacob had been chosen to represent Earth in the Galactic Concord, a powerful alliance of over 300 alien civilizations. It was a dream come true for him. As a child, he had always looked up at the night sky, wondering if anyone was out there. Now he knew the answer. And today, he would meet them. The ship docked with Verelion Prime, the heart of the Concord. It wasn't a planet, but a massive space station, the size of Earth's moon.
Oh.
It floated between systems, neutral ground for all species. Every nation in the galaxy sent its best here. Scientists, diplomats, and, in rare cases, royalty. Jacob took a deep breath as the doors opened. Docking Bay was full of life. Some aliens were tall and glowing, others small and covered in fur, others shimmered like liquid metal. There were beings with 6 arms, some with none. A gentle smell of ozone, spices, and strange flowers hung in the air. A low hum of voices, music, and translator devices made the air feel alive. Then he saw her. She stood among a group of tall, silver-robed beings. Her skin was pale blue, almost glowing, and her eyes looked like polished amethyst stones. Her long white-gold hair flowed behind her like silk in zero gravity. A glowing circlet rested on her forehead. She was calm, still like a statue that had decided to move. Jacob felt his heart stutter. "Who is that?" he asked his AI assistant. The AI replied softly in his ear, "Princess Avalith of the Serenari Empire, second daughter of the High House, known for her diplomatic skill, emotionally reserved, highly telepathic, approach with care." He was not planning to approach her, but his fate would have it. The Concord assigned him to join a cultural exchange team, and Princess Avalith was part of it. The next day, Jacob sat in a grand chamber called the Hall of Echoes. It was built for shared learning. The walls displayed floating holograms of poetry, music, and history from across the galaxy. Each diplomat was assigned a partner from another world. His partner, Princess Avalith, she sat across from him, her posture perfect, her face calm. Soft crystal floated beside her head, a translator, glowing faint blue. "You are from Earth," she said, her voice like soft bells in the wind. "Yes," Jacob replied, trying not to sound nervous. "I'm Jacob Thorne. It's an honor to meet you, Your Highness." She tilted her head slightly. "Do not use titles. I am here to learn, not to rule." Jacob smiled. Fair enough. They're supposed to share one cultural artifact. Jacob had brought something simple, a children's book full of Earth stories. Princess Avalith had brought a memory crystal from her home, a glowing orb that played a musical dream from her past. She placed the crystal between them. It lit up, and a soft hum filled the room. Slowly an image appeared. A Serenari garden. Under twin moons, flowers glowing in the dark. A young Avalith walked slowly through it, silent, thoughtful, alone. Jacob blinked. "It's beautiful," he whispered. She didn't reply, but her eyes stayed on him for a second longer than necessary. Over the next few days, Jacob and Avalith met again and again. They shared more stories, more memories. He taught her Earth humor, knock-knock jokes, movie quotes, silly dances. She taught him about Serenari poetry, long floating verses spoken without sound, shared through mind touch. He found her fascinating, not just because she was alien, because she listened deeply. She never rushed. She spoke with meaning. And when she laughed rarely, it felt like moonlight breaking through ice, and she started to smile more often around him. One evening after a long day of meetings, Jacob found her walking alone in the Starlight Gardens, an artificial biome filled with glowing trees and singing wind. "May I join you?" he asked. "You already have," she replied, softly. They walked side by side, saying little. The silence between them felt warm, not empty. I used to think aliens would be terrifying, Jacob admitted, and I thought humans would be loud and undisciplined, she said. Well, I am loud sometimes. She looked at him with a quiet smile. And yet I do not mind. They stopped by a small pool of glowing water. Stars reflected on its surface, as if the sky had bent down to listen. Jacob stared into the water, then said something he didn't plan to say, something that came from the deepest part of him. I wish I could marry her, he whispered, almost to himself. The words were soft, just a thought, a dream. But Saranari were telepaths. They didn't just hear words, they felt the truth behind them. Avaleth turned. Her expression did not change, but her eyes glowed a little brighter. My answer is yes, she said. Jacob froze. Wait, what?
What?
She stepped closer. Spoke from your heart. In my culture, that is a proposal. Jacob's mouth opened and closed. But I didn't I didn't think. She reached out and gently touched his wrist. You did not lie. I felt your truth, and I have chosen to answer with mine. He was speechless then, without warning, one of her retainers. A tall Saranari guard stepped forward, his eyes wide. He had heard it too. Two more appeared, murmuring in their language. Their crystal translators glowed red. A signal had been triggered. Avaleth sighed and turned to Jacob. I must. Speak with the High Council, she said. There will be discussion. Did I just cause a royal scandal? You may have changed history, she said calmly. That is not a bad thing. She walked away, glowing faintly in the starlight, her steps as silent as thought. Jacob sat alone by the pool, stunned. His heart raced. Part of him wanted to run after her. Part of him wanted to hide. Part of him, a growing part, was smiling. He had whispered a wish to the stars, and the stars had answered yes. Jacob Thorne could not sleep. The bed in his guest suite on Verelian Prime was soft. The lights were dim, and the sound of distant wind music was peaceful, but his mind was racing. She said yes, not a maybe, not a joke, not even a misunderstanding. Princess Aveleth of the Saranari had looked into his eyes through his soul and accepted a proposal. He hadn't even meant to say out loud. He turned over and stared at the ceiling. A soft glow pulsed above him, showing the current galactic hour. It was nearly dawn on the station. His communicator buzzed. A message. Ambassador Thorne. Please report to Hall of Harmony. Level 7. Immediate session requested by the Concord Council. Formal dress advised. Jacob sat up, heart pounding. Already? He dressed quickly in his dark Earth diplomat uniform, clean lines, silver trim, and the Earth emblem over his chest. As he stepped into the corridor, he saw something new. People were staring at him, not just curious glances. Full attention. Aliens of many species stopped walking and whispered to each other. Some nodded politely. Some looked confused. A few looked angry. He heard one translated voice say, "That's the human." The Hall of Harmony was a massive chamber shaped like a spiral shell. It could hold over 1,000 beings. Floating platforms hovered in midair, arranged in curves. Each platform belonged to one planet or empire. Jacob stood alone on Earth's platform, facing the council. Across from him stood Princess Avaleth, surrounded by 5 Saranari council members, tall, serious beings with glowing eyes and deep blue robes. The head of the Saranari delegation, Lord Virulin, spoke first. Ambassador Thorne. You understand the meaning of your words spoken last night? Jacob cleared his throat. I didn't think anyone heard them. You were beside a Saranari princess. You always hear the truth, Lord Virulon said calmly. You expressed desire to join your life with hers. That is considered a binding vow in our tradition. I understand now, Jacob said. I didn't mean to offend anyone. Avaleth stepped forward. He spoke from the heart. That is not an offense. One of the council members frowned. You accepted, princess, without permission, without discussion. I did not need permission. To speak my truth, she replied. A wave of whispers passed through the chamber. Many were shocked. A Saranari princess was known for grace, for wisdom, not for sudden decisions. And now she had accepted a human's wish as law. An Earth Council woman stood up. With respect, Earth was not informed that such a statement could cause political impact. Ambassador Thorne acted as an individual, not as a representative of marriage intent. Tall insect-like diplomat from the Zellery hive buzzed in. Is this a scandal or a union? The galaxy wants clarity. Another voice shouted, are we seeing the birth of the first interspecies royal bond? The head speaker of the Concord Council raised his hand. Silence fell. Let us be clear, he said. Princess Avaleth and Ambassador Thorne have engaged. In a recognized Serenari vow, expirate, but it is not yet legally binding across the Concord, he turned to Jacob and Avaleth. If both wish to proceed, the next step is a courtship under Concord law. A formal process of understanding and intent. You both agree? Jacob looked at Avila. She met his eyes, calm and sure. I agree. He swallowed. Then, I do too. The next few days were strange. Jacob was no longer just Earth's ambassador. He was a galactic headline. Every news station, every communication feed, every translation crystal buzzed with his name. Alien princess accepts human proposal, unity or chaos. Serenari and Earth. Love or political drama. First heartlink between civilizations sparks debate. Jacob spent most of his time preparing for the courtship phase. It wasn't like human dating. The Concord had rules for cross-species partnerships, especially ones that could affect royal bloodlines or power balances. He and Avaleth had to take compatibility tests. Language, fluency, emotional communication, memory sharing. They met with Concord advisors, spiritual leaders, even dreamweavers who could enter shared dreams to test emotional bonds. In one such dream, Jacob and Avaleth found themselves standing in a white forest with silver leaves. He could feel her emotions. Not just see her face. Calmness, curiosity, something else. Loneliness. You're always so calm, he said to her in the dream. But sometimes, I think you feel very alone. She looked at him, surprised. No one has ever said that to me. Is it true? She didn't answer with words. Instead, she took his hand. The forest around them shimmered like glass touched. By sunlight, in the waking world, people had many opinions. Some Serenari nobles believed Avaleth had gone mad, that a princess bonding with a human was shameful, even dangerous. Others, especially younger Serenari, admired her bravery. They had grown tired of endless tradition and silence. Avaleth had broken centuries of control with just 4 words. My answer is yes. Even on Earth, opinions were divided. Jacob's parents sent him a message. His father was confused, but supportive. His mother cried and said, she better be good to you. Back on Varelian Prime, Jacob and Avaleth were assigned to a joint interview away for the public to see their bond firsthand. 1,000 species tuned in as they sat across from each other in a light-filled studio. No scripts, no translators, just open conversation. Princess Avaleth, the interviewer, asked, why did you say yes to a human you barely knew? Avaleth turned to the camera, because I felt truth. We Serenari are trained to detect lies, even in silence. When he whispered his wish, it was not a joke. It was honest, pure, and without manipulation. I had never heard such a thing before. Jacob was asked, do you love her? He paused. I don't know if love works the same for us. I don't even know if I understand everything she is. But I do know this. When I'm around her, I feel stronger, like I'm becoming the kind of person I want to be. That answer surprised everyone, even Av. She reached over and gently touched his hand in front of the cameras. The moment was replayed across systems for days. After the interview, Avaleth invited Jacob to a private garden, not the Starlight. One this time, but a Serenari meditation chamber. It was quiet, full of floating stones, soft light, and air that felt like a soft sigh. I feel pressure, she said, from my people. It's from the galaxy, but not from you. That is rare. I don't want to pressure you, Jacob said. I just want to know you better and see where this leads. She looked at him, eyes soft. There's a part of my culture called the heart step. It means choosing someone not because of duty or order, but because your soul moves toward them. And, am I that someone? I do not know yet. She admitted, but I want to find out with you. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Jacob asked, what happens if your council says no? If they try to stop this? Avalith's voice was steady. Then I will not be a princess anymore? Jacob stared. You'd give that up? If I must choose between a crown and a true bond, I choose the bond. Back in his room that night, Jacob stood by the window again, looking at the stars. He wasn't sure where this path would lead. He was just a boy from Earth who had whispered a wish. And now, that whisper had echoed through the stars, through politics, through hearts. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time, he didn't feel small among the stars. He felt seen. Jacob Thorne never thought love could become war. He thought it would be soft and simple. Quiet talks, long walks, smiles under alien stars. But this was different. 3 weeks had passed since the courtship began. 3 weeks of tests, dreams, interviews, and deep connection between him and Princess Avaleth. And now, as their bond grew stronger, Serenari throne began to shake. Back home on the Serenari world of Velenai, news of Avele's acceptance of a human proposal had sparked political tension. Old nobles called the Elder Circles were furious. They believed Avalith had broken a sacred code. The Serenari bloodline must remain pure. One of them declared in an emergency summit, "The human lacks knowledge of our customs, our spirit ways," said another, "the Serenari throne." Ruled by Avelith's father, the High Emperor remained silent. Too silent. Inside her quiet chambers on Varelian Prime, Avelith stood near a window, her long white gold hair falling over her shoulders. She wore a royal robe of soft blue silk and silver threads. Her mind felt heavy with messages from her world warning's anger, threats of exile. But none of it scared her as much as the thought of losing Jacob. He entered her chamber without a sound, as if he already knew she needed him. "They're calling it a betrayal," she said softly. Jacob sat beside her. "I figured they are preparing something. A formal challenge." "What kind of challenge?" She turned to face him, her eyes glowing faintly. "If the throne rejects my bond with you, I must pass the trial of union, lose my royal rights forever." Jacob blinked. "Trial of what now?" "It is an ancient law. If a Serenari royal chooses a mate outside the Empire, they must prove the connection is true, not just emotional, but spiritual. We will be judged. By who? The Circle of Flame. 13 of the oldest minds in our galaxy. They will test our unity in body, mind, and soul." Jacob scratched the back of his head. "I've done job interviews. I've met angry politicians. But this sounds more intense." "It is," Avalith said. "If we fail, you'll be sent back to Earth, and I will lose my title." Jacob took a deep breath. "I didn't mean for this to happen," he whispered. "But it did," she replied, "because you spoke truth, and I listened." The next day, a silver vessel arrived from Velenai. Circle of Flame had come. They were strange beings older than time, cloaked in heat and light, floating slightly above the ground. They had no faces, but their thoughts echoed in every mind. "We have come to test the heart bond," the eldest one said, in a voice that vibrated the walls. A public announcement was made. A trial of union will be held in 3 days. All Concord. Members are welcome to witness. The fate of Serenari tradition and a new galactic connection hangs in balance. The galaxy watched. Some cheered for love. Some prayed for separation. In the quiet before the trial, Avalith and Jacob were taken to a special chamber known as the Vault of Mirrors. It was no normal room. Each mirror showed memories not just real ones, but possible ones. Some showed happy futures, a home on Earth, a palace on Velenai, children with glowing eyes and curious minds. Others showed darker paths, war, betrayal, loneliness, heartbreak. You must walk through your doubts. One of the Flame Circle members said, Only those who face the worst of themselves can walk toward union. Jacob and Avaleth entered together, but the moment they crossed the threshold, they were separated. Jacob stood alone before a mirror that showed a painful vision of Avaleth. Walking away from him, emotionless, marrying another Serenari noble? He shouted her name. But the vision didn't stop. Why would she choose a fragile human over her empire? A voice echoed in his mind. She won't. She'll regret you. Deep down, Jacob clenched his fists and whispered, No. She chose me for a reason. The mirror cracked. Meanwhile, Avaleth stood before a vision of Jacob old and bitter, blaming her for losing Earth's place in the Concord. You gave up everything, the vision said. And what did you gain? Nothing. But Avaleth closed her eyes and whispered, I gained him. Yeah, that is not nothing. Her mirror cracked too. The trial chamber accepted their truth. On the final day, Jacob and Avaleth stood before the entire council of the Concord and the full circle of flame. The test was not a fight, not a game, not even a speech. It was something far deeper. Each was given a small orb, the Heartlink sphere. It floated between them and pulsed with their energy. Their thoughts would pass through it, their feelings exposed to all, one by one. Members of the circle asked questions. Jacob. Thorn. Would you die to protect her? Yes, Princess Avaleth. Would you live without power to remain with him? Yes. What do you fear most? Jacob answered, failing her. Avaleth answered, losing the only person who ever saw. The real me. Sphere glowed brighter. What is your deepest wish? They both answered at the same time. To walk through every day together. The Heartlink sphere shone with white gold light. The circle of flame rose into the air. The bond is real. The truth is clear. The trial is complete. A wave of cheers broke out across the chamber. Some gasped, some cried, some clapped. But Jacob only looked at Avaleth. She was glowing, not just in color, but in peace. Later that night, the two sat once again in the starlight garden. Beneath artificial stars that now seemed real, you passed. The test, Jacob said. You're still a princess. No, she replied. Now, I'm something more. He turned to her. What's that? She smiled and reached out her hand. Yours. Jacob took her hand. And for the first time since they met, they didn't need words. Because silence between souls is louder than noise. Peace did not last long. After Jacob and Avaleth passed the trial of union, it became a symbol of hope, of change, of something new. Many across the galaxy cheered. Young Serenari dreamed of freedom. Earth's leaders celebrated Jacob as a hero. Even alien empires who once ignored humanity started paying attention. But not everyone was happy. In the shadows of Velenai's crystal towers, a secret group called the Old Flame Order gathered. They were ancient Serenari nobles, proud, bitter, and angry. They believed the princess had dishonored their race by choosing a human. She has made a fool of the throne. One whispered, She must be stopped. Another replied, Their leader. A noble named Vitharion stood tall with glowing red eyes and a silver crown of bone. If the bond cannot be broken by law, he said coldly, then we shall break it by force. Meanwhile, on Varelian Prime, preparations for the unity ceremony began. It was not a wedding in the human sense. It was a Concord-wide recognition of the bond. Once complete, Jacob and Avaleth would be permanently recognized as partners, spiritually, politically, and emotionally. No planet, not even Velenai, could deny it. Jacob stood with his Earth advisor, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm going to stand in front of the galaxy again. You've done it before. His advisor smiled. Besides, this time she'll be standing with you. He nodded. That's the only part that makes sense. Avaleth, in another chamber, wore her ceremonial robe, woven with threads of starlight handed down from Serenari queens. But she had added a human touch. A small earth rose near her heart. Her handmaiden looked worried. There are whispers of trouble. Some nobles plan something dark. Avaleth stayed calm. Let them try. The ceremony was held in the Star Chamber, a floating platform above Varelian's clouds, surrounded by a field of light and guarded by Concord soldiers. Leaders from 42 worlds came to watch Jacob and Avaleth stood before the council. Hand in hand, a Concord judge stepped forward with the Unity Crystal, glowing with both blue and gold Serenari and earth colors. Do you, Aveleth of the Serenari, join your spirit to this human by your own will? I do, she said firmly. Do. You, Jacob of Earth, accept this bond, knowing all risks and honors. I do. And the judge smiled. Then, by the unity of stars, let your hearts shine suddenly. The lights flickered, the sky cracked with thunder, and a scream tore through the air explosions. 3 black ships descended from above, firing pulse beams at the guards. The crowd panicked. Screams and chaos filled the air. Jacob grabbed Aveleth and pulled her behind a shield barrier. What is this? He shouted. The old flame, she said with fury in her eyes. They've come to destroy us. A figure dropped from the lead ship Fotharian. Wearing dark armor and a burning sword of light, the blood of Serenari must remain pure, he shouted. This bond ends now. Jacob turned to face him. You want to fight? You've got one. Fotharian smirked. You think you can protect her human? You are weak. I don't need to be strong alone, Jacob said. We're strong together. Avaleth stepped forward, her robe now glowing with inner power. She held out her hand and a wave of light pushed Fotharian back. You dare bring war to my unity? She said with royal power. You are no true princess, Fotharian spat. You are lost to a lesser species. Avaleth's eyes narrowed. Then let me show you the strength of unity. A full battle broke out on the Star Chamber. Concord guards clashed with masked warriors from the old Flame Order. Light blades against plasma shields. Explosions shook the air. Jacob fought beside Aveleth, covering her with his energy shield. She used her Serenari light magic, sending pulses of starlight that blinded enemies. But Fotharian was powerful. Too powerful. He struck Avaleth with a blast of fire, and she fell back, weakened. Jacob ran to her. Aveleth, are you okay? She looked up at him, blood at the corner of her mouth. I'm not giving up, she whispered. Not today. He helped her stand. Fotharian stepped forward. You'll die protecting her? Jacob faced him. If I must. The old noble raised his burning sword, but before he could strike, the Unity Crystal exploded in light. A wave of energy surged. The crystal had chosen. It recognized their bond not just as lovers, but as protectors of peace. The blast hit Fotharian directly. His armor cracked, his sword vanished, and he screamed as he was thrown from the platform into the sky below. Silence returned. Smoke cleared. The battle was over. The old Flame Order was defeated. The Concord judge stepped forward again, eyes wide with shock. Never has the Unity Crystal defended its bearers. You too. Your bond is no longer just recognized. It is blessed. The crowd, shaken but safe, began to cheer. Some chanted their names. Others bowed in respect. The judge continued. Let the galaxy remember this day not just as the day of unity, but the day when love stopped war. Jacob looked at Avilich. She was bruised, blood on her lip, eyes tired, but she smiled. I told you, she said softly. We're stronger together. He took her hand, and for the first time he said it, clearly, no whisper, no fear. I love you. She smiled wider. And I love you. That night, under the stars, the Concord officially completed the Unity Bond. Jacob Thorne, human diplomat, became the first honor partner of the Serenari Empire. Avaleth, princess of a starborn race, was now forever joined to a man from a small blue planet. Together, they had faced laws, tests, and even war. Together, they had won. But far across the galaxy, on a shadowed world, another figure watched the news. His eyes glowed red. His voice was soft but cruel. So, love has won this round. Let's see how long it lasts. A new threat was rising, and the storm had only begun. The stars over Varelian Prime sparkled like diamonds that night. the world was healing from the attack. Scars still marked the sky where the old flame order ships had burned through clouds. Broken towers were being rebuilt. Guards were everywhere, but still people smiled, because love had won, and the galaxy had seen it. Jacob Thorne stood at the edge of the royal gardens, looking out over the floating lights. He had come to this planet months ago as a simple human diplomat. Now he was a symbol of unity, a partner to a princess, hero to some, a target to others. But none of that mattered now, because she was walking toward him. Avaleth wore a robe of soft silver, her white gold hair shining in the moonlight. Her wounds had healed, her strength had returned. But her eyes held something, knew something, calm, deep, and sure. "You're quiet tonight," she said as she reached him. "I was thinking," Jacob replied, "about everything. How crazy this all is. A few months ago, I was still in Earth's orbit station, thinking I'd be stuck delivering peace notes. Now, I'm bonded to an alien princess and survived an assassination attempt at our unity ceremony." He chuckled lightly. "Sounds like the beginning of a legend. Or a really long movie." She looked into his eyes. "Do you regret any of it?" He shook his head. "Not a second." The next morning, they were called to the council hall for an important announcement. The Concord leaders stood together, with their long cloaks and layered medals. Watching Jacob and Avaleth enter, the High Emperor of Velani appeared through a projection. His face was calm, but his voice strong. "Princess Avaleth," he said, "you have stood before law, tradition, and violence. You have chosen a path none before you dared to walk. As your father, I feared this bond. As your emperor, I questioned it, and now I accept it." Avaleth lowered her head in respect. The emperor continued by the power of Velani's throne. "I declare you no longer bound to the rules of bloodline alone. You are free to rule as your heart commands." Avaleth's eyes widened. "You're allowing me to take the crown?" "Yes," he said, "if you choose." Jacob blinked. "Wait, this means she could become Empress, one Concord," Leader whispered. "But only if I accept," Avaleth said softly. Jacob leaned toward her. "What do you want?" She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "I want a new kind of rule. Not from a throne made of crystal and fear, but from beside the one I trust." The emperor's voice echoed again. "Then your coronation will be held in 10 cycles. Prepare well." In the days that followed, Jacob and Avaleth were trained in leadership, law, and strategy. Together, they made plans for peace, opened talks between Earth and Serenari colonies, and helped wounded citizens rebuild their homes. But something darker brewed beyond the stars, in a system far from the Concords. Reach, the Ash Sovereign, prepared his fleet. He had once ruled an empire before the Serenari drove him into exile. Now, hearing of Avella's human bond and her father's surrender to love, he saw weakness. "This is the perfect time to strike," he hissed to his generals. "They are distracted. The bloodline is bending. Let us break it completely." Set course for Velan. The day of the coronation came faster than expected. The entire galaxy tuned in. Jacob wore a black and gold ceremonial suit, decorated with Earth and Serenari symbols. Avaleth wore the crown robes, stitched with threads from every major system. She walked slowly toward the star altar, Jacob by her side. The Concord judge lifted the final crown, a soft white gold band that shimmered like moonlight. But just as the crown touched her head, an emergency alarm screamed through the sky. A hologram burst to life. Velani was under attack. The Ash Sovereign's fleet had arrived, massive black ships, shaped like claws and bones, rained fire over the Serenari capital. Citizens ran, defenders rose, but the enemy was too strong. Avaleth looked at the judge. "Cancel the ceremony." Jacob touched her hand. "Let's go stop this." They raced to the launch bay, joined by Concord defenders and elite Serenari guards. Their personal ship, the Starlight Spear, powered up instantly. As they lifted into the sky, Avaleth sent a message to the fleet. "This is Princess Avaleth. I am coming home." The battle for Velani was fierce, Flames lit the ocean cities. Skies were torn with light and death. Jacob took the weapons chair, firing pulse beams at incoming enemy drones. Avaleth guided the ship, her hands glowing with light magic to boost their shields. They flew straight toward the ash. Sovereigns command Vessela, towering black fortress in space. Inside, the sovereign waited. "You came to me," he sneered, when Aveleth and Jacob arrived on his bridge. "No," Aveleth said, stepping forward. "We came to end you." The final fight was brutal. The sovereign wielded dark matter chains and gravity bombs. Jacob used his shield, emitter and plasma knives. But it was Avaleth who finished the battle, channeling the unity. Crystal's power through her bond with Jacob. The two stood side by side. Hands joined, a wave of light bursting from their hearts. The Ash Sovereign screamed as his body was turned to ash, his fleet collapsing with him. Silence returned to Velenai. Days later, peace returned for good. The coronation resumed, not just for Aveleth, but for both of them. The Concord declared them the bonded rulers. It's a symbol of peace between species. Jacob was no longer just human. He was a leader, a partner, and a legend. And as the twin sons of Velenai rose, the stars whispered a new story. That once, a man whispered he wished to marry her, and she turned and said yes. And together, they changed the galaxy forever.